program today, huh? You guys like that? There you go. A little bit of La Bamba this morning here on News Radio WRVA. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. My name is Rich Herrera. This is Richmond's Morning News. Here on the Voice of Virginia News Radio WRVA. It is Cinco de Mayo. That is not Mexican Independence Day. Actually, it's more of an American holiday than it is in Mexico. We'll learn about that today on the program. We'll also be joined by Tom Garrett. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth, the House delegate member, as we're waiting to see when the courts are going to rule on our redistricting plan. So that's coming up on the program today as well. So I've got a lot to get to this morning here on Richmond's Morning News. Cup of Joe is in charge today. So best of luck to all of us today. Now I'm just kidding. He and Super Dave behind the glass, Gary Hess, with updates throughout the morning. But it's going to be a gorgeous day today for the Cinco de Mayo. We're going to be in the mid-80s, plenty of sunshine, some breezes in the afternoon. I just remember Cinco de Mayo was one of my favorite drinking days of the year when I was a kid. When I was a bartender, did I make a ton of money on Cinco de Mayo, St. Patrick's Day, the day before Thanksgiving. Those are my biggest drinking days to make money as a bartender. So hope everybody's going to go out and have a margarita, taco, burrito, whatever you have to do to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. But we're going to actually learn what Cinco de Mayo is on the program today. So I have all that going for us this morning here on Richmond's Morning News. How about we kick things off like we do every week, every show, every opportunity that we get together. Let's kick it off with Richmond's Morning News Brief. All right, story number one on our agenda for today. The ceasefire is hanging on by a thread. I think it's already been broken. Iran attacking U.S. naval destroyers as we slept overnight. Here's the latest from Fox News.
Number one.
The conflict could get significantly more intense and soon. Pentagon sources telling Fox that the U.S. may resume major combat operations any day now. And that's all happening as the fragile ceasefire with the regime faces its biggest threat to date, with the Pentagon announcing plans for U.S. forces to guide vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, even as peace talks with the regime remain stagnant.
So the latest is last night, the USS Truxtun, the USS Mason came under quote-unquote sustained Iranian attack in the Strait of Hormuz by drones, by small boats, and missiles yesterday. According to reports, they both were backed by fighter aircraft and Apache helicopters, with officials, again, quoting from CBS News, that it was a sustained barrage upon the two U.S. naval destroyers. The U.S. Did have two cargo ships, U.S. flag, got through the Strait of Hormuz yesterday without an incident. But now that Iran has said, listen, you start pushing ships through the Strait of Hormuz, we control this waterway, we will attack. They took attacking the U.S. naval destroyers yesterday. The president will have to respond back. You can't have anybody shooting at U.S. Navy ships and not respond. I think the ceasefire, in my opinion, my analysis, is hanging on by a thread, and that thread's about to snap right now. Here's the bottom line, and we'll get into this today. Does Iran really want to negotiate, or are they going to stay steadfast with their desire, demand, wish to have a nuke one day? Something the world won't stand for, Donald Trump won't stand for. We'll get into that a little bit later here on the program. All right, story number two. Gary alluded to it. The would-be assassin of Donald Trump stormed into the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Well, he got an apology yesterday from the judge in his case. Here's the latest.
Number two.
A Justice Department prosecutor said Cole Allen told FBI agents he didn't expect to survive the assassination attempt. And in an email, Allen said he wanted to extend his appreciation to many people since he will not likely be able to talk to them again. Magistrate Judge Zia Faruqi told Allen he would get him the Bible that he's been requesting. Faruqi acknowledged it is a high-profile case, but maintains Allen should not be in solitary confinement. At U.S. District Court in Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
According to many legal eagles, that's unusual for the judge to apologize to a defendant that's being held. when he said, I don't expect to see anybody, meaning that it was going to be a suicide mission, when he went in and stormed in the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the jail officials put that in perspective and said, you know what, let's put him on suicide watch. You never know how he's going to react. But the judge's reaction, to me, is rather peculiar. You want to make sure that this person's going to be safe. The number one job of a jailer is to make sure that your prisoners are safe. In order to do that, well, you have to evaluate what are they up to, what is their mental state, and more than anything else, how will they react being incarcerated for the very first time? They felt like with such serious charges, and he was ready to, again, not see anybody ever again when he was going to carry out what he thought was something important to him, like shooting up the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He was committed to this. That's why they put him under suicide watch. He had asked for a Bible a few times. He had also asked for to be out of the solitary confinement, out of suicide watch. The judge is going to get him his Bible. One of the things his lawyers had talked about yesterday is, well, he wanted access to a tablet so he could email friends while he's being held in custody. We'll see what happens, but it's rather unusual for the judge to apologize to a defendant being held in jail. That's story number 2 on Richmond's Morning News Brief. Story number 3, we're still waiting. It's still waiting. It's now been 2 weeks since the voters of Virginia have spoken. What's going to happen with the referendum to re-gerrymander the state of Virginia? That's the third story this morning on Richmond's Morning News Brief.
Number 3.
Where will you look at me? I have the power!
We've been talking about this. This really is a fight for power. Have you ever noticed how much Democrats always talk about when we get power, when we have the power, we will decide. We will decide. I've never really heard a Republican go, when we get the power. It's kind of something unusual. Just think about the juxtaposition of we want the power versus, well, when we try to help the American people. It's either fighting or we want the power. I look at those choice of words and I think they're important. Anyway, we're waiting. It's been 2 weeks. The Board of Elections cannot certify. The Tazewell judge still has the stay, saying that you can't certify these election results. So we're going to see what happens. Very interesting. Ken Cuccinelli, former AG here in Virginia, pointed out, you know what? They haven't scheduled Tazewell 2. There's 2 Tazewell cases. The one that went before them that was filed before the election said, listen, you didn't follow any of the procedures. We didn't have 2 elections we didn't have an election with the two bills being passed by the General Assembly. You jumped the line on all these different things. It wasn't even eligible to go up for referendum, but you pushed it across anyway. The court had said, we're going to sit on that until after the election. They did. That's the one they're looking at right now, but it's very unusual that the second one that's been expedited to the court has not been given a calendar date, nor have they scheduled anything as far as following up on Tazewell 2, the second ruling from the Tazewell Judge Hurley, and the court is waiting. And a lot of people are trying to read the tea leaves. Now, I'll tell you this. We're talking to folks on the inside. They are trying not to get ahead of themselves. They're trying not to get ahead of themselves. My son's taught me this thing. We're waiting to see what's going to happen with him. And he says, Dad, no news is good news. But that's awfully, awfully tough for the average person to go, no news is good news. So both sides are trying to read the tea leaves, not trying to make too much of it, but it's got to get done quicker, sooner rather than later, because you've got people that are either going to run for the House of Representatives or to be placemen if the gerrymandering goes through. I told you what placemen were yesterday. Back in Revolutionary War times, a patron, a very powerful person, would install people into be members of Parliament in the House of Commons, and they just basically did what their bosses told them to do. They called them placemen. So if we have the gerrymandering districts go through and we have a 10-1 non-competitive map and races, well, were they really representative? Were they really elected by the people? Or were they placemen put there by the Democratic Party? We'll see what happens. But again, it's been 2 weeks. We'll talk with Tom Garrett about that coming up here on the program. Story number 4, good news for Rudy Giuliani after a scare yesterday.
Number 4.
America's mayor, former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, had his last rites given to him, and people were concerned he was on He was in intensive care, critical care. They brought in the priest, gave him his last rites, but afterwards he started to recover, feeling better. They've taken him off of his respirator. So again, hopes and thoughts and prayers with Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor, under duress right now, health-wise, and we'll keep an eye on that and report to you as we continue. All right, big story number 5 today, Cinco de Mayo.
Number 5.
What day of Mayo is it?
Cinco.
Cinco de Mayo already? Oh, yeah.
It's Cinco de Mayo.
Festive celebration of Mexican culture.
Hey, getting ready for Cinco de Mayo?
I am throwing a big Cinco de Mayo party.
Big Cinco de Mayo numero uno.
Also Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, I said that.
Did you not hear me just now?
No, that's because I'm already drunk.
Cinco de Mayo. Drinking margaritas.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
It's showtime!
Cinco de Mayo is not really a big deal in Mexico. It's not really a big deal at all in Mexico. It's more of an American holiday than it is a Mexican holiday. But today is Cinco de Mayo. What is it? We'll tell you about it. It really has to do with the French and the Mexicans more than it does anybody else. We'll talk about Cinco de Mayo, what it really is, but I would love to know, where should I go for Cinco de Mayo today? If you've got an idea of where I should go, I'd love to hear from you this morning here on Richmond's Morning News. 833-804-1140. 833-804-1140 is the number to send me a text message on the James River Air text line. 833-804-1140. All right, we will continue with you this morning here on Richmond's Morning News. Where should I go for Cinco de Mayo? 833-804-1140. All right, today's program brought to you in part by Greer Financial Group. Okay, listen, you've dreamed of what you're going to do in retirement. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go in retirement? What is it going to be like? It's going to be fabulous. Okay, I'm going to go to Tuscany. Then I want to go to Australia. I want to see the Grand Canyon. I want to see every Major League Baseball park. We all have dreams of what we want to do in retirement. But there's when reality smacks you in the face. Reality says, hey, that's great. You want to go and be an international traveler? That's awesome. How are you going to pay for your groceries when you get back? How are you going to pay for your prescriptions when you get back? If you need a new car, what are you going to do when you've retired for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? You have to factor all these things in. It's more than just a fantasy. It's life. It's your life. You sat down and had those